Alex or Alexander? How do you want to be?
Alex.
Alex, awesome. My name's Betsy Reed. I'm the president and co-founder of CloudWerx, and we are a Google Premier Partner and recent winners of Google's Partner of the Year Award. And thrilled to, I know, right? And thrilled to have you on and learn a little bit more about you personally, you professionally, and more importantly than any of that, right, is Rome blockchain. So that's what we're really here to talk about. So Alex, tell me a little bit about you, your role at Rome blockchain, where you're from. Just give me the 10,000 foot view. Who is Alex?
Absolutely. So my name's Alex Szul. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Rome Blockchain Labs, and we're an experimental and private blockchain laboratory who's building blockchain technology to create the next generation of finance. I started the company in a synopsis. I started the company with two gentlemen, one named JD Gagnon, he's originally from Calgary, Canada, and another gentleman named Hannu Kusi out of Helsinki, Finland. And we actually began the laboratory with a singular goal, and that's to give people around the world who don't have access to bank accounts, who don't have access to debit accounts and savings accounts, an opportunity to earn a dignified living and have a stable and robust access to financial technology. So we decided that DeFi was the best avenue to achieve that goal, and Rome Blockchain Labs was spun out of that.
Awesome. Wow. So this is a very, a lofty, altruistic, there's, the mixture of technology and then really work for good, right? For the bettering of society globally. Where did that come from, Alex? Like how were you raised? How'd you grow up? Tell me about your parents. Like, where did this not only kind of mixture of technical acumen, clearly you're the CEO, so you have business acumen, but also this desire to say, I see something that's not really working in the world here, and I want to make that better, and I want to dedicate my life to that. Tell me where that came from.
Absolutely. This is a really good question. So it came from, I think, a bit of my own struggles in COVID. So the company is kind of a COVID company, as we like to say, where prior to Rome Blockchain Labs, I was doing consultative technical sales. So basically, I would sell really intricate and complex machinery to steel mills and chemical plants and things like that. COVID happened, and every company froze their budgets. No one was spending any money. And I was essentially 100% commission at that point. And I was prepared to get married. I was going to buy a house, and I had no money coming in. So I'm like, oh man, how am I going to do this? So a funny story, I almost took a job picking up dead bodies for $50 a body to pay for my wedding. I was going to work during the day and do that in the evenings to cover it. And that just wasn't sustainable. So I had to find a way of earning money myself. So I thought, okay, well, everybody's trading stocks. So I traded stocks, didn't turn out too well. Then I found out about cryptocurrency. I said, well, cryptocurrency is more volatile. It's emerging technology. I'll try that. And long story short, I got very lucky, and I made enough money to buy my way into a company out of Finland, which was started by Hannu Kusi, one of my co-founders. They made me CEO, and we started building from there. But during that process, I realized not only in myself, but in, I want to say, most of the globe, a lot of people felt a sense of helplessness, where they were kind of at the whims, so to speak, of the market, at the whims of the different career fields that they were within. And they didn't have a sense of control or necessarily direction over their own financial future. And I think you'll see some people became entrepreneurs during that phase. They started to kind of get that and wanted to fix it. But when I looked at it, I thought, okay, in the US, there is a lot of upward mobility. There's quite a bit of opportunity, and in certain developed countries. But if you go to third world countries, or even developing countries like in parts of Africa, parts of Southeast Asia, parts of the Middle East, people don't even have access to reliable internet. They don't even have access to a bank account to get a loan to start a business. It's very, very difficult there. So I said, what if we can cut out all of this really complex kind of, for lack of a better word, ancient avenues of creating opportunities, and plug people directly in to new systems and new technologies that are accessible on a cell phone. Mm-hmm. And that's when we had that light bulb of, okay, well, DeFi actually lets us do this. All you need is a couple dollars. You need, like an ID, which most people can have, even then some people struggle with that, but still, a lot of places you don't need an ID for DeFi, and you can begin to invest, you can begin to trade, you can begin to earn emissions or yield on certain technologies. You have, as compared to traditional markets, as much insight and knowledge into the underlying technology of a platform, into the community, are built around a company as the next person. It's not so much of a city set apart like you find in Wall Street. So I don't classify myself as someone who's anti-Wall Street. I'm not anti-regulation. I'm not any of that. I'm pro the average person. I want people to be able to earn a dignified living, like I said, using technology that they have in their pockets.
Wow. Really noble. And also it's something that is only going to become more and more important as we see, you know, the trends of kind of the top few percent and the bottom few percent. And there's not a lot in the middle anymore. So how do we change that? I do think giving opportunity, not just in the United States, but globally, is a really important part of that. In terms of crypto and blockchain and DeFi and all this, there's lots of terms that to the layman, right? We may have heard, similar to like hearing about AI or ML and so on.
Yeah.
And they really are buzzwords to most folks who haven't dug in or spent the time, or they're not natively involved in the business in their course of work or in their career. So I know that with things that folks don't understand, typically things especially that are disruptive, there's a sense of fear that surrounds some of these topics, especially when it's newer disruptive technology. So to the layman folks out there that may not have a lot of access to or experience with crypto and or blockchain, give your best fifth grader explanation to a fifth grader of what it is and what the opportunity is, and then also do that with DeFi, just so we can kind of be operating from a shared language for people that are joining this that may not have the background that you and I do.
Absolutely. So I think I have a really good quick explanation of how to really mentally conceptualize what blockchain is, right? So let's imagine, Betsy, that you and I are in a warehouse, okay? And you have like 100,000 books that you want to organize. And you need every single book to be organized in a specific way in such that it can never be changed, but is also easy to retrieve. Like if I want to find Robinson Crusoe, I know exactly where it's at in this.
And the order can never be changed.
Yes, exactly. So the books always...
this story is very true for me. I'm an OCD, I'm a Virgo, so this sounds exactly correct to what I would need to happen in my warehouse. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Yes. So you have 100,000 books, you need them to be able to be located and returned in exactly the same place. The order never changes, right? And you say, how can we do this? And I come to you and say, let's have one cardboard box that can fit a set number of books. So we can fit 100 books into one box, okay? And we stack all the books in order in the box. And then you, with your clipboard, you'll write down, okay, book number 1 is Don Quixote, book number 2 is War and Peace, and you can go through and all 100 books that's written down, and then it gets glued to the side of the box. And then when that box is filled up, we then take a second box, we open it up, we pack it full of more books, we put that list on there, and then on the top of the second list, we say, box 2, look to box 1 for other books, right? And then we create this chain of boxes that go in there. And then you have this list, which is a compressed description of everything inside of there. You can create a chain of boxes that will hold all of that data and information rigidly in place. That's almost exactly how blockchains work. A blockchain is a collection of data that goes into a block instead of a box, and it takes transactions. So Alice sends Bob 5 Bitcoin, Bob sends Charlie 3 Bitcoin. Those are our books. And each of those transactions are ordered inside of the block. And there's only so many transactions in one block. When they're filled up, a new block gets created and it gets tied in a chain to the previous block, which creates a blockchain. That's essentially all that blockchain is. It does the same thing for data that our explanation did for books.
Awesome. That was really helpful. Have you ever delivered that before, or did you just come up with that right now?
So I've written about it before, but I've never explained it verbally.
Well done.
Thank you.
Done. Now I'm thinking about all the books I want to read, so that's great.
So you asked about DeFi as well, and that's a really key point. So crypto and blockchain, contrary to what most people believe, actually aren't necessarily synonymous. So blockchain actually started back in the 90s. The first blockchain was built back in the 1990s, but cryptocurrency didn't really emerge until Bitcoin came out in like 2011, 2013, somewhere around there. And DeFi is to go back to our analogy, it's a way of being able to trade books with people who have different warehouses or who have different boxes, different blockchains, where essentially DeFi, all it is, it's blockchains that have smart contracts or program like codes built into them that facilitate the exchanging of assets. So for example, you might say, all right, when next Wednesday at noon comes around, send these 10 books over to someone else's warehouse. That's kind of what a smart contract does in a blockchain, where it introduces conditionality into the financial transactions that occur with different tokens. And because of the nature of the code that lives on the blockchain, you can create very complex sets of conditions, so complex that you can form exchanges, you can offer lending services, you can offer complex derivatives. You get really tricky with how these things come out. So that's what DeFi is. It's a way of facilitating on-chain financial transactions.
Okay, awesome. And so you're giving folks the opportunity to engage in these transactions, much like people engage in stock exchange, and benefit from the commerce or the outcomes of these transactions in a material way, in a financial way.
Like in a sense,
they have.
Exactly. So we don't do like stock trading. We don't do anything with securities or anything like that. We do just token work. But it really is, you're right, about building a layer of infrastructure and a layer of services that allow for people to enter into these systems. And that's actually where our companies, Betsy, began working quite closely together, because in partnership with the GCP, we're offering the very base level services that let people kind of dip their toe into this technology. We have the analytics sub deployment, where we're taking RBL net data. So what we've done, Betsy, is we've taken every single exchange on every single token on all top exchanges on most blockchain ecosystems. We've taken every single one and indexed it for access. So you can go back all the way to block one, and you can pull, I want to see every single swap on Ethereum on this exchange since block one till now. And our systems can extract the information. It'll give you the USD price. It'll give you the volumes. You can do really complex analytics on it and help you make informed decisions. And then on the click to deploy node side, we said, okay, let's say that I'm a university student, or a professor, or I'm a hedge fund manager, or an analyst, or even just a normal tech person, right? And I've looked at this data and I said, wow, these markets are pretty interesting. There's some really interesting trends. I want to study them, or I want to consider, trading on them. But I don't want to have to go through all these third parties to get that go. And I want to get right to the source myself and do it. Well, you would need your own blockchain for that. And that's where the click to deploy node system comes in. You can go to the marketplace. You say, I want an Avalanche node. That's a full node in North America. Click a button, and shortly after, you have your own node where you can validate tokens. You can begin staking. You can begin deploying contracts. You can ping it and extract your own custom data sets from there. We want to give people the tools to be, successful in their endeavors in the system. That's what we're looking to build.
What type of support or services do you wrap around that? Like, if I'm somebody that's a novice and I come in here and I have all these tools to work with, how do I know what to do? Do you supply that, or is it plug and play? Do you find that it really caters more to people that do have a baseline level of understanding of how to use this or how to leverage it? Or is it really available to anyone and there's just a learning curve that exists?
Absolutely. So it is available to anyone, and the amount to which you want to leverage this technology is really dependent upon how much work that you want to put in to understand the base cases. The GCP infrastructure has been a great pleasure to work with. It's very simple, very simple to work with. And we've seen that we're able to actually take a lot of what we do inside of our laboratory, kind of behind the curtain, so to speak, and bring it out and make it accessible for people at the same point. So what I mean by that is that if you look at the RBL net data available through the analytics hub, you get this like ocean of data coming to you. It's like more than you could imagine trying to figure out yourself. So what we do is we give customers sample queries for them to run. So they say, so take a very standard, I want to know what's the volume of wrapped Ethereum through the Uniswap exchange over March to September of 2022. Okay, that's a relatively standard query. So we give people the framework to do that. They can run it on their own imported data sets and they can get the answer. So we give people the seeds and the tools to kind of plant their own garden in a sense, and from there they can, get as involved as they want. On the node side of things, we've made it really as white glove as is possible for running a node. Running a node, for speaking quite honestly, Betsy, most blockchains is a pain in the butt. Is that because of how comparatively novel this technology is, and it's changing every single year. What we call the stability of nodes is quite finicky, and that newer networks are running virtual machines, and they're built around a system that is a little touchy. So what we do is we try to take away all that maintenance away from the person who's really just focused on validating or really focused on querying data or deploying smart contracts, where all you do is you click a button, you get your RPC endpoint, and you can begin to pull data, like I said, deploy contracts. You don't have to worry about upgrades. We do all the upgrades for you. You don't have to worry about if a node goes down or if it stops syncing with the network. We have monitoring in place to ensure that you always have the most up-to-date node. And this type of service will expand to light nodes. So if you want like a lighter, not as involved system, and even archive nodes eventually, where if you want every single bit of data on that chain since block one, you'll have that as well.
When were you founded again? You said COVID was when you got the idea and you kind of decided I need to make a change, but when did Rome Blockchain Labs really get founded and you get to work building this business?
So we started informally in 2020 and we launched our first project January 2021.
Okay, so you've been busy.
Very, very busy.
Very busy. When you look at 2024, what are some of the things that you're most excited about? And what are some of the things you're like, that's going to be a little hairy? Like, we're prepping for this, but on both sides.
So the thing that I'm most optimistic for is there's kind of two levels to it. The first one is a macroeconomic shift in the market. I'm not getting into like a Bloomberg-esque analysis here, but overall, it's been a bit of a bear market for the past few years. It's been very cold. There's almost no activity. And there's a saying in DeFi that billions are built in the bear, and that's I've come to see is quite true. So with this upswing in the macroeconomic market, we're going to see that outflow down to the medium market caps and the different DeFi projects.
And partnered on. So we're getting up near time. And before we kind of wrap, a couple things. One, when you're not leading this company and being a CEO, what do you do for fun? What are some of your favorite hobbies? I know personally, I don't have a ton of those that I get to do so much anymore because I'm really busy, but you gotta fit it in. You gotta be a human. So what are some of the things that Alex likes to do when he's not leading Rome Blockchain Labs?
So when I'm not leading RBL, I believe it or not like to read. I love reading books on spirituality and philosophy. That's kind of my degree is actually in religious studies of all things. So
what are you reading right now?
Right now, reading a collection of Bernard of Clairvaux. He was a French monk from the 12th century who wrote a lot about mystical philosophy and wrote a lot about he was actually one of the reformers that made monasteries so successful and so popular in the medieval ages. He would go to like a church in France, he would give a talk, and 10 people would become a monk. They'd follow him all the way back to his abbey after that. He's a very influential figure. So not the most exciting read for most people, but I think it's fascinating. And then beyond that, I just got into yoga pretty recently, but more for stretching because like I'm 6'5", I'm not the most flexible guy out there. I can't even touch my toes, so I gotta like start working on my flexibility. And I do actually enjoy hiking. I haven't gone hiking in.
Well, this is great. Anything else that we haven't covered? I know there's tons of things we could have talked about here today, but is there anything that you feel like you'd like to share with our audience prior to us wrapping up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that I would love to share with the audience is if you're considering working with CloudWerx, I 110% recommend your company, Betsy. And I, of course, I'm not being paid to say this. You actually didn't ask me to say this either beforehand.
I did not. No, we have not. We have not. Yeah.
Is that your team has been very, very professional, and you definitely know what you guys are doing in regards to technology, go to market, and even compliance. I've come to find out today. I had a call with John earlier. And for companies that are taking that step from kind of small startup phase into medium or more enterprise contexts, and you're looking at building on GCP, I think your firm is without a doubt one that I would definitely work with again and plan on continuing to work with.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. And we feel really, really blessed and lucky that we get to work with some of the most interesting and innovative companies in the world that are doing this groundbreaking stuff. And we're like the acceleration path, right? It's like, okay, work with us. We can help you with the things that we're uniquely qualified to do, and you do the rest. And of course, we would not be here without Google at the helm. So, you know, we feel like we get to rep the best company in the world and work with the coolest customers. So, you know, it's not easy, but it's very fun.
Absolutely. You know, working with CloudWerx is like finding the back door to success at GCP. That's how I feel.
That just gave me chills. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. And this is not the last time we will be talking, I'm sure. Yep. And I'll tell the team to keep up the good work.
Fantastic. Thank you, Betsy.
Thanks, Alex. Take care.
Bye.